Hey there, I'm Sarah Zarella, a portrait and wedding photographer and your host for Wedding Secrets Unveiled. This is a podcast where we cut through the complexity of wedding planning, leaving you with everything you need to know directly from the industry experts. If you want to simplify your wedding planning while having fun, of course, you came to the right place. Join me while I guide you through your planning, starting from your engagement to your big day when you say, I do. After photographing for over 20 years, I am sharing with you tips and tricks to cut through the excess noise. Because I believe from the moment you said yes, your planning experience should be a magical time in your life. Here you'll find episodes that are fun, stress-free, and straight to the point with a fresh, honest take on the reality of what you really need to know about planning your perfect day. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. I'm your host, Sarah Zarella, and today I am talking with Cole and Sarah, who are the co-owners of the Wedding Planners. So today we're going to give a little bit of a different insight about what is really important about planning your wedding and what sets the tone along with the budget. So if you are in the beginning stages of planning your wedding, or if you're in the middle of planning your wedding, today's episode is going to give you little tips and tricks, and we're going to unveil a lot of key points about budget, planning, and the big one, your venue. Well, welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. So I have two very special guests today. With that said, why don't you tell our listeners who you are, who you serve, and what you do in your business?
Yeah, hi. We're the Wedding Planners. I'm Cole.
I'm Sarah.
We are 2 years into our planning business.
Approaching 3.
Yes. And then before that, we kind of worked for venues. So we have a little different take on wedding planning. But we also always joke and say that we didn't choose weddings. Weddings chose us. There was never in my thought process of career path would I have thought that I'd end up in weddings. But it's really awesome. And I think that kind of, suits us even better. It means that it was really meant to be because it found us. And we love it, and we continue to do it, and we continue to fall in love with it more and more. But actually, it's really funny, too, how we met. It was really like the universe brought us together as well, because I was coming into a position, and she was leaving the position. So we had met for a week. That's all we knew each other was for a week. You were training me, and then you were out. And then I think you even got out of the wedding industry, right?
I did step out for a little bit, yes.
You stepped out, and then I left that job and you popped back into it, but we didn't know this. And so we both got hired for the same position at the same place. And when I walked into my first day, I was like, Sarah? And she was like, Cole? And I was like, get out of here. And then from there just sparked this really beautiful relationship.
Yeah, because we were we didn't know each other very much from the previous country club. It was a very brief interaction that we had. So when we saw each other, it was definitely a familiar face. But it was we kind of grew from that point forward, and we became really close and really loved the industry and loved doing weddings together that, I feel like we really decided let's move on from doing it within the venue and let's kind of expand and do it for the couples and kind of grow with the couples and get more close with these individual people and kind of learn more about them than just being stuck in a venue and, in that one space there.
Yeah, and I joke. I was like, the universe tried to bring us together the first time, and then we missed, and then I was like, no, we're coming back around.
That's a cute story.
Yeah.
And here you guys are.
And here we are.
So tell us, what's the name of your business?
It's the Wedding Planners.
Got it. And where are you located? Just for the listeners.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mostly in Rhode Island. We do also Massachusetts as well, but mostly Rhode Island and all over Rhode Island.
And then also, too, I think it's important we have to tell the listeners how the three of us are sitting here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Big shout out to one of our couples, Jill and Easton. She's an avid listener, and she also wanted you as her photographer for her wedding.
I know. So hello, Jill. I am so excited that you are a fabulous listener, and because of you, we are here today.
Absolutely.
Well, welcome, ladies. Let's get right into it, okay?
Yes.
So I know when we were trying to brainstorm what we should talk about today, because there's so many topics that us three could sit here and chat about. I think what was really important, Cole, for you was to have the listeners really kind of hone in on a little bit about what people don't think about when they start planning their wedding?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Especially when booking their venue. There's so many things that you don't even think about. Even if it's a backyard wedding, there's so many things that people don't think about. But when it's a venue itself, we always say that's definitely the number one vendor. I mean, for a couple of reasons, right? You can't do anything until you book your venue. You don't have a date. You can't hire anybody else. You can't do anything. But also the venue really sets the stage for your wedding. So not only does it set the mood and the vibe and you want to make sure that it matches you as a couple, it also is going to set the tone for your budget. And a great example that I like to use is we have a couple getting married at Fort Adams, right? Gorgeous space.
So for our listeners, Fort Adams,
It's in
right?
Newport.
It's in Newport.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not local, definitely Google it because you can see that it's a very unique property. It's ran by the state.
Yes.
It's a state-run property.
Yes.
And so just kind of setting the tone. So
yes.
And it's very different. It's not like you just walk into a building and here's your reception room.
Right. It's a fort.
It's a fort.
It's a historical fort, which so cool. Like, how cool. I can't wait to work there. It's really awesome, but which means it's all outdoors. And there's like really unique factors to it. And there's different things that you want to think about. For instance, the couple is getting married on one lawn by the water, cocktail hours in another space, receptions in another space. It's all outdoors, which means you need a lot of rental things. So the property itself, for what they're doing, is renting for, I believe, around $8,500. So that sets one of the tones. That's a big chunk of money, $8,500. And then you still have to think about the tent, the table, the chairs, the dance floor, the linen, and all of that, depending on your guest count, depending on the upgrades you're going to do, can also lead up to $20,000 or more. So right there, that's almost $30,000. That is just the bare bones. That is the bare bones of your wedding. That doesn't account for anything else. So that's a big chunk of your budget gone. And then you have to think about, bringing in your caterer, bringing in the food. You have to think about the rest of your vendors and how you're going to account for that. And then you also have to think about, since it's all outdoors, there's a lot of walking involved for your guests. So you're walking from the parking lot to the ceremony, from the ceremony to the cocktail, from the cocktail to the reception, but not only that, from the reception to the bathrooms. All of that is outdoors too. Right now we're in New England, so the venue's in New England, and the weather is very unpredictable, so you just never know. So for this couple, what we were lucky enough to do was we reached out to the venue and got the couple's information for the day before and reached out to their planner and are doing a tent share. Not all companies will do this and not all rental companies will do this, but Newport Tent Company does. And they give a discount for a tent share. So that was a really great way to save some money. I think we saved almost like $6,000 by just doing a tent share.
Right. So a lot of times, too, logistically, right, for the listeners, you're probably thinking, okay, what is a tent share? A lot of times the tent companies, well, at least the tent companies that I worked with, they do not set up the day of. So they definitely have to come sometimes days, prior, sometimes the day prior. And with that said, if it's the tent's already up, why not tent share? So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so helpful. And again, the rental company for the tables and chairs didn't do a share, so we reached out to a different company and did it that way. But any way that you can, just ask. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask.
And I think that's a great point, too, on the logistical side of things is, if they aren't able to set up until, the day before, even some companies even require a couple days before to set up. You always have to make sure you're working one-on-one with the venue, make sure they don't have, a wedding the day before where we have the ability to have the tent set up. So that's something on the planning end of logistical things that, if you're planning your wedding for the first time and you have a location like this where you need a tent set up, things that you'll have to think about logistically to make sure that the tent will be able to go up and there won't be any issues or with the venue or any, things that would make it not be able to get set up the day prior.
So you just touched upon a little bit about this particular wedding that you're having at Fort Adams, and you just pretty much probably paid for your fee with suggesting a tent share that maybe the couple wasn't even thinking about. So there you go. So you just saved them some money. But for someone who's listening, that probably, it's one of those moments where like, oh, like this is, they don't do this every day, right? Yeah. They do this once, and this is why they're listening. They just want to try to gain as much knowledge as they can. So you talked a little bit about a tent wedding, but what about, especially with your background coming from a venue space, what about some budgeting or thought processes or things that people are not thinking about when it's other types of venues? Some key little points or some nuggets that you can kind of give some takeaways for people.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's different types of venues that allow different types of things, but some venues come with their own catering. So you'll see that a lot with bigger venues or venues that are owned by catering companies, like managed by catering companies, or a lot of country clubs do this where they have in-house catering. So you have to regardless go with their food. And with that, there's always going to be a food and beverage minimum. And that's, again, where you're going to see why the venue sets the tone for the budget, because now you have to reach the certain amount. And it's not based off of your guest count, typically. It's typically just based off of the time of year and the venue itself. So if there's a $30,000 food and beverage minimum that you have to hit, but you only have 80 guests, is that worth it? Is that not? There's only so much food and so many upgrades you can do. But if it works for your guest count, then that's great. If you're not trying to stretch that, or if you're not trying to stretch your budget either, that's great too. But a lot of pros to having catering with the venue. So many pros. I mean, they know the venue, they have the staff, they do this all the time. So it also takes a lot of pressure off of you because you don't have to, again, do more work, find another vendor. So when you can get an all-inclusive, and then tables, chairs, linens, things like that, that's all included, and that's huge weight off of your shoulders, and that's all included in the rental fee. So unlike for Adams, where you have the rental fee and then you still have the rentals, the venue has the rental fee and then the food and beverage minimum. So a little different.
Absolutely. And like you said, this is all the reason why it sets your tone is that first initial location.
Yes. Absolutely.
So what are some other key factors that people should be thinking about when it comes to budgeting?
So once you nail down your budget, you want to start, or as you're creating your budget, I should say, you want to start thinking about the vendors that are most important to you. So certain vendors, like say, entertainment, some people are really into bands, whereas some are, more into having a DJ rather than, a full band to come out and play for their wedding. But, of course, thinking about band, that also comes with a bigger cost typically than a DJ, and that cost can always vary so greatly. So, we've seen bands go as low as $2,000, maybe even under that if they're a new brand coming into the industry, but all the way upwards till 10 grand plus. So really, when you think about band, you want to really make sure it fits in your budget, again, because it is one of the larger costs that will, chunk that will be taken out of your budget. So you really want to think about it. And also you want to have, references and reviews from these bands, or, if you have a wedding planner, someone that can kind of provide you the references or the experiences from these bands in the past, because it is important to have.
True. And also with that, think about the space of the venue too. Like if you want a 7-piece band, is there even space for a 7-piece band?
I love that you brought that up. So here is the thing, right? So I think for the listeners, I think you're already starting to see why sometimes having a wedding planner is really important, because they think for you. There's certain things you haven't thought of. But if you don't have the luxury of having a wedding planner, you are giving some people some great little takeaways. Exactly that. Logistical spacing. Like a DJ takes up a little bit different space than a band. And that goes for everything. Like everything else that you want to bring into your reception to make such a wonderful experience, like a photo booth. Like I have a photo booth company. Selfish plug, Rocky Booth. But with that said, our photo booth is 8 feet wide by 8 feet. Okay? That takes up some floor plans. Some people want to bring lounge furniture, right? So anyway, I'm just so happy you just kind of gave that little piece of knowledge. Just think about the logistical end of what you're putting into your room, into your space. But anyway, I totally hijacked your question, but I just love that you brought that up, that a band does take up much more room.
Yeah, and then kind of jumping into thinking about other vendors that, take a bigger chunk of the budget away, photo and video. We have a lot of couples in the past, that have said, we want to just do photo. We're not interested in video. But later on, as we get closer to the wedding day, they say, hey, let's add on video now. I always like to really vet our couples now to really think about photo and video and see if it's something that they're going to be interested in, because it's always nice doing it as a dual package. That way you have the same company, you're working with the same people, and they work closely together on the day. They typically have been doing this for years together, so they know how they work well together.
But you also get a little bit of a discount, too, when
yes,
you do the photo and video together. So that's helpful as well.
For budget purposes, absolutely. So being able to get that discount to do the duo package and not, having to rent or having to hire a photographer and a video separate and having a higher cost just doing those separate. You definitely save a bit doing it together.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Yeah. And another big chunk of the budget that I always hear people complain about is the florals, because wedding florals, they're very expensive, but for good reason. And they really do transform a room. I'm not going to lie. We'll set up a whole room. We'll do, the linens, the candles, the tables. Everything will be done. And then typically the florist is the last person to come in and just place the centerpieces. And whew, do they transform a room? I'm not going to lie. So if you're debating on whether to have florals or not, definitely have florals. Even if it's a couple bud vases, do the bud vases. And there's definitely a big difference between DIYing your florals and then hiring a florist. I mean, we had one couple show up to a wedding and just handed us like 3 buckets of flowers and was like, here you go. And I was like, I'm sorry, what is this? And they're like, this is, for the centerpieces. I had to create 18 centerpieces on the day of. We only really get 2 hours to set up. I will say that was very stressful because none of the flowers are prepped. It takes a lot more time than just sticking flowers in a vase. None of them were prepped. None of them were cut. None of them. Anyways,
I think that's the beauty where there is 2 of us, though. So we are that duo team where we can kind of help each other out. And when things like that happen, we have the extra hands already to do it. So give you a pat on the back for making them look beautiful regardless.
You didn't know that you're going to have to be a florist, too?
I didn't know that. But it did spark a new interest, and we are expanding into florals. So
there you go. Look at that. Yeah. See, that was another little, godsend.
Right? The universe just keeps hitting me with things. I love it.
I do have to say one thing, and I'm going to give a shout-out to my main man, Dan, over here, who just got married this past spring. And you talked about florals, how it can transform a room. So he got married in a very special place for him and his wife. It's, where he grew up. It's the courthouse where he grew up, the town hall where he grew up. And it is a nice room. It's very pretty. When you hear courthouse, some people always just think very stale, but it's very, very pretty. It has peach walls. It has a lot of sunlight. Mm-hmm. But with that said, there was 2 beautiful, just two beautiful arrangements, very beautiful arrangements. The florist went above and beyond. But with that said, I think the room itself was very pretty, but when you added that, it actually gave me a wow effect. I walked into the town hall / courthouse that I actually grew up in the same town that Dan grew up in. So I've gone in there to vote, and I've gone in just to get my taxes information.
Nice.
But with that said, I walked in and I just said, wow. So I just wanted to give that little plug that, yes, florals can eat up your budget. If you have it, do it, because it does transform a room. But it is important to think about that. It is one of those budgets that it does eat up a lot more than I think people realize.
Yeah, but you don't need as many florals as people think either. Like you said, he just had 2. And it transformed the room completely.
Completely.
Yeah. Again, just a couple bud vases on the table. Transform the table completely.
So much so that, we weren't supposed to take pictures in the room after. And I said to him, Dan, we're going back in. I had to use these floral arrangements. They were just so beautiful. But yes, there are certain things just to think about. And, just have to think about. So just something to take away is florals do definitely make a statement in a room.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple other key things that can help with budget too, such as cake. A lot of people are, not doing the big grand cakes anymore. They'll do smaller cutting cakes and sheet cakes in the back, or even mini dessert displays. We just see a lot of desserts go to waste, so you don't need as much as you think. Favors, we see a lot of favors go to waste. I'm not going to lie, and I'm really sorry to say this, but nobody wants anything with your initials and your wedding date on it. Nobody takes them. So we always see people take things that are edible, So either making your desserts the favor, or we had a couple import olive oil from Italy because Italy was the theme. It was very important to them, so that was great. Everyone took that. There was not a single olive oil left. Or even other cool things such as like a bottle opener or wine key or playing cards with just something cute on it and not necessarily specific to you as a couple.
And a lot of times what my couples will do is if they have the photo booth there, their takeaway is the pictures.
Yeah.
Basically, who does not love a selfie, right? So your guests are doing selfies, and there is those beautiful 4x6s or 2x6s, the takeaway with your name, and that is something that they'll have forever to remember and the experience. So, yes, you can be creative in the favors. I mean, obviously having a photo booth sometimes will be a little bit more expensive than the favors, but you're also giving them an experience.
Yeah.
So, like you said, having imported olive oil, it's going to be a little bit more than obviously some other type of favors, but you got to think about what are you trying to achieve here? Do you want something that's just left there, or do you want something that someone's going to use?
Totally, yeah. Oh, we also had a couple do a caricature artist. That was really fun for guests. A caricature artist where they sat down, so then that was their favorite. And they had this fun little caricature of them.
And you're creating an experience.
Yes. But I would say the most important thing when it comes to a budget is going to be the guest list. And I know that's probably something that most couples struggle with the most, but just cut it down. Cut it down. I hate to say it, but cut that guest list down.
We actually have an entire podcast episode on guest lists. So it's funny that you say that. And so just if you're at the point and you're taking what Cole and Sarah are saying and you're thinking about guest lists, scroll back and look at there's an entire episode on guest lists and how cutting it down and giving you some steps. But yes, guest lists. And also, too, guest lists are always going to loop you back into the first thing that you ladies were talking about, which is venue.
Venue, yeah.
Some venues cannot hold certain amounts. Some venues need certain amounts. And you just look bare and empty in that room. And like you said, that you're dealing with some food and beverage minimum. So guest list.
Yeah, super important. And always do that. Do that before you even go look at a venue, right? Like just get an overview of how many people are going to come. And then that way, again, that's going to narrow your venue search down completely. Not many venues can hold 300 people these days. And there's so many beautiful hidden little gems that can only hold like 80 people max.
So what we're going to do, Cole and Sarah, is let's take a quick little break, and then we're going to come back. And I really want to start talking to you guys a little bit about how you're seeing traditions change. And we can start talking about some trends and some things that are happening currently in the industry.
Cool, yeah.
I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you like what you're hearing, I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. And don't forget, you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate if you left a fabulous review on Apple Podcast. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support. And now, let's get back to the episode. Well, welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. So, before the show, I was talking with the fabulous Cole and the fabulous Sarah a little bit about just thinking about your budget and thinking about how that sets a tone and just things you haven't thought about. But let's get into what you are seeing with traditions and trends.
Yes, I love this part. I love when couples choose to do things their own way. There's a lot of things you may hear from other people who have already maybe had their wedding, but really make the traditions about you. And traditions is a really broad word to myself. I feel like people really think like, hey, let's do it the old traditional way. But traditions can really just be what you really be about you. So you can make your own tradition in a way. I think a big thing that we do now or we really push for in our current weddings is doing things like a first look. That really helps in other aspects, too, where you may be able to go and enjoy your cocktail hour a little bit because you've been able to get some photos done beforehand. But really, it's also personal time between you and your partner. You can also do private vows at that point, which can be very, again, personal and just a really cute touch. Or if you're a little bit shy or maybe you don't want to say it during the ceremony in front of a lot of people because it might make you a little bit nervous. But doing it, with you and your partner there alone can be a really nice tradition that you make together. And it's definitely something we push for nowadays with our couples.
Yeah, totally. And talking about first looks, I mean, the day goes by so quickly. It goes by in a blink of an eye. And so if you can do anything to just extend it any little bit, I think that's great. And first looks, you can get an extra 2 hours out of that. You can get all your photos done. I'm sure you really love this. You don't have to rush through all the photos during cocktail hour. You can really take your time. You can have some fun with it. You can relax with your bridal party. You can relax with your partner. I mean, you don't see your partner all morning typically. So then finally to just have some time with you two alone, because then after that, guess what? You're just spending all the time with your guests and walking around and seeing all your friends and family. So it's also a really nice, sweet moment to have with you and your partner. And then also, this is something a little new that not a lot of people think about, but get pre-married. You don't have to actually get married on your wedding day. You can be already married. Like, go to the courthouse, get married beforehand. It takes so much of the pressure off and so many little details out of it. And then also, anybody can marry you. It doesn't matter. You can do your ceremony however you want, because guess what? You're already married. You can make up your own rules. I love that. I love that. And then there's no pressure. It's not, I don't know, there's no runaway bride. There's no even opportunity for that. It's like, guess what? We're already stuck. We're stuck together. So this is just for fun. This is just to share our love with our family and friends. And I think that's really cool. But then also, queerness and gender identity. I mean, I think with queerness and gender identity is moving in a really beautiful direction in the world right now. I think the wedding industry is a little slower to catch up with that. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that queer people couldn't even get married. So, but I remember when I first got married, I got married in Florida. So being gay in Florida, a little different. But I was terrified. You'd hear all the horror stories of someone not even wanting to make you a cake because you're a gay couple. And I hate that. I hate that so much. I hate anybody hating on anybody for love. It's just not cool. And planning your wedding is stressful enough. You don't need to add that onto it. So I really looked for all my vendors that had just even like a little rainbow heart, one gay couple review, one picture of a gay couple, like anything like that. But that's what also hiring a wedding planner is really helpful, because we kind of protect you. We make sure that, like, we're giving you the right vendors who make sense for you, the ones that are going to support you, the ones that are going to, make the day super special. And then it takes the pressure off of you and the stress. So even if you do have anything, but you won't even know. We'll never tell you. We'll make sure that, like, you're good, you're protected, and we can just have, like, this beautiful, loving time.
And you know what, though, too, Cole? And I'm happy that you brought that up. Is what I was going to say when you were talking about getting pre-married, but I wanted you to obviously finish your sentence. As I was going to say that ultimately this is your day, right? So, I have this whole podcast. I want to give back to you all. I just want to share knowledge from professionals. But ultimately, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yes.
It's your day.
Do whatever the hell you want.
It's your day. So, and don't let all of this, this and that and this and that, take away from ultimately what you want to do. This also goes back into the last point that you made was, you said that, the wedding industry is not as up to par with, different types of weddings. I have to say, too, I don't know if it's so much the wedding industry. It just could just be society still. We're still dealing with a lot of different generations and things. So I know, for example, next week I am doing a wedding where the two girls getting married, and it's 30 people. And the reason why is that's who they want there. That's who's supporting it. Yeah. And unfortunately, they don't have their families coming on either side.
Oh, that's so tough.
I know.
That's heartbreaking.
But it's their day.
Yes.
And I'm really, really, really excited for this particular wedding because with 30 people, kind of going back to your guest list and what you're talking about, they have 30 people. That opens up a lot of opportunity to customize their day. So I've already done their final detail appointment, and I do know some stuff that they are doing and customizing, but it's different when you hear it than to see it and to be able to capture it. So I think just the big takeaway that I would just love to add into some of your points is just that ultimately this is your day. So anything that you can do to make it less stress-free, the better. So going back to first looks, if you just know you have social anxiety or just a lot of anxiety to be on stage or in front of people, doing a first look will probably relieve that, because what you just did is you ultimately allowed yourself to be with your partner, and a lot of times people see the first time that they see each other when they're up at, like, let's say, quote unquote, the altar, right? But now you've already seen each other, so you've already done this. So now you're going into this together. You got that eye contact. You're going down the aisle. You're like, okay, we got this, because you just spent a couple of hours before him, and you made your wedding go a little bit longer. But that's not to take away the special moment when you do see each other. People think that, oh, by doing a first look, it takes away that wow moment. Absolutely not. I don't care what's happening. You can see each other the day before. You can see each other 2 hours. It is the moment, right?
Yes.
So I think my whole thing that I'm just trying to take away with this is whatever you can do to just stop and think about you and your partner and how you guys are and what makes you tick, and just to make sure that you set your day up for you. Just take a deep breath and just refocus.
Yeah. And also touching on your queer couple next week, I'm so proud of them. Like, don't invite your family. If your family doesn't support you, they don't need to be there. And again, yes, invite the people that are special to you and your couple, that have been with you through your journey, who support you, who love you unconditionally. Like, just because they're family doesn't mean anything. Look, if they're not going to support who you are, forget it.
I got a very interesting question from her too. She goes, have you photographed a queer wedding before? And I just thought that was interesting because I've been doing this for 22 years, and I photographed all different sizes and 500 people wedding, five. Jen and I did a COVID wedding, 5 people. Like, anyway, it was just a very interesting that I didn't realize, I guess I just didn't realize that was going – I felt bad that was the question that she had to ask me, right?
Yeah. Well, it's tough too. Sometimes we'll get forms from vendors for our couples to fill out and say, I have 2 males getting married, but then it says bride and groom. And they literally crossed out the bride's name and just wrote groom. And I was like, oof, those are those moments where you're like, just gender neutral it. Just put partner 1, partner 2, you know? And again, I don't know, pronouns and this and that. It's just, the wedding industry, everything is very hetero. It's very Mr. and Mrs. Even when you look it up, everything you buy is going to have Mr. and Mrs. on it. And that's really frustrating to see. But, I mean, I get it. But I just want to – that was the first thing I told Sarah, too. I was like, look, if we're doing this, and I'm going to need you to be – and, of course, I'm going to really need you to, like, hop on board with the queerness train. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, sick.
And I think that's where we serve, Rhode Island and Massachusetts, but we also serve everyone as an individual person for who they are and, as an individual person.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah, that's just what when she asked me that, I had to stop and think, because to me, I don't photograph any differently. Right. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I felt bad that's the question that she had to ask, but I understand.
Yeah. It is. They're questions you have to ask because you never know, and God forbid on the day, and it's something that most people don't think about because they're not presented with it. But as a queer person myself, like, it's something that's unfortunately we have to deal with all the time. It's like, are they going to be okay with this? Is it going to? I mean, this is my wedding day. I don't want any negativity. But I'm really proud of your couple. I'm really proud of them for, like, not inviting their family and all, keeping it small so they're tight knit. Like, that's what a wedding is about.
They've been together for 11 years, so this has been a long time. And even when we were discussing her timeline, she was talking about, like, there was just certain things that she's like, oh, okay, so do you think it's okay? She wanted pictures, basically. There's 30 people there that are very important to her, right? And she's like, do you think it would be okay if I get a picture with this group and this group and this group? I'm like, it's absolutely okay. But then I realized, and she even said it, she's like, it's just a different way of thinking. We just always had to hide and always not project. So for even just getting pictures, it's like a foreign thought. Like, no, this is your day. It's a very interesting thought process different thought process that they had to go through for so many years. So I'm excited for them because it's finally, and I hope that this will be the first day of many days ahead of themselves where they don't have to think about the projection. Does that make sense?
Yes. They can just be. Mm-hmm. They can literally be them and be as in love as they are and celebrate with their people and just be.
Absolutely. So we've been talking a little bit about customization. So with that said, what type of packages do you offer to your couples?
Yeah, so right now we're actually excitingly expanding the business as well. So we're getting a little bit into rentals and into florals. So that means our wedding planning has changed a little bit. So we've actually dropped our full planning, and now we just offer a partial package and then a day of package. And we tend to see a lot more people go for the day of package because they realize they're like 2 months out. They realize they they can't do all this on their own, or they realize they need somebody to set up for them. But the biggest question we get when doing inquiries is, well, there's a venue coordinator or there's a catering coordinator. Why do I also need you? And I think our biggest thing is that those coordinators are just focused on what they do. The venue is focused on the venue, the caterer is focused on the caterer, but we focus on you. We focus on you, we focus on your family, and we focus on the day as a whole. We really want to make it about you and everything that you do. I always say that we're like your ride or dies, right? We're your confidants. Like, tell us everything. Tell us. I always joke too. I'm always like, tell us if you're even uncomfortable. Like, tell us if you have gas or like you got some diarrhea going on. Like, girl, we got you. Like, we want to make this the best day possible for you, and tell us everything. Tell us if someone's bothering you. Tell us if your mother is driving you crazy. Tell us if you need new shoes. Tell us if you hate something that's happening. We're going to fix it for you. Really confide in us because we've got your back. Also, we're always 10 steps ahead, so we're always thinking about what's next. We typically create a timeline with you. We make sure we include all the important details in that, and we make sure that we're going to hit all those important details. But throughout the day, the timeline is just a general. Throughout that timeline, we're constantly changing things. We're constantly moving things. So we always recommend, don't have your phone on you. Don't even have a watch on you. Like, don't even think about the timeline. Just we'll come to you. We'll grab you when needed. We'll move you. We'll do everything for you, and we'll make sure that we're hitting everything that you need and we're adjusting accordingly. So a lot of times, the food's running late, so the caterer needs a little bit of time here. So, okay, in order to stay on track, we'll move this before this and da-da-da-da. Like, there's always moving pieces. But that's what we do. We're 10 steps ahead, and our priority is you, 100%. Trust us, confide in us. Like, we've got your back through and through.
I love it.
Yeah, but then we're also getting into rentals and florals, so also think of us for that.
I was just about to say, because obviously I was just hopped on your website right now. I'm like, well, you have a whole package about florals, and here we are. We know how that all started.
We do, yeah. So thanks to that couple who threw a curveball morning of, but it really did. It sparked something in me. My background is also in design, and I worked in the entertainment industry, so weddings really kind of takes everything that I've done in this beautiful package, but the biggest thing that I'm missing is still that design aspect. Like, I work a lot with people on their vibe and the colors and what they want to portray for their wedding, and I think florals is a great extension of that, where I can get even more creative with them and I can really work one-on-one with them instead of working through somebody else. It's just helpful and also I can work with their budget more personally because I know their budget more personally, so I can really tell them, like, okay, I know you want a full arch, but a full arch is going to cost us, let's do this and this. And since, again, florals can transform a room, you don't need as many as you think, especially for the ceremony. Everyone wants to go over the top with florals for the ceremony, and yes, it's beautiful, but then there's not a lot you can do with those florals afterwards, right? And you're only there for probably 15 minutes to a half hour max. So the main focus should be the reception. And anyways, I could literally talk about florals forever, but
I think another podcast episode.
Honestly, Sarah and I were joking. We were trying to put this together, and we were like, she just needs a whole episode where it's like spilling the tea with Sarah and Cole, and we could just spill all the tea on weddings. Because I feel like that's so interesting. When I was talking about my sister, I was like, well, what would you want to hear on a wedding podcast? She was like, honestly, all the things that go wrong. She's like, that's what I want to know. I want to know all the dirty details. Tell me everything that goes wrong. And I was like, oh, maybe next time.
All right, there we go. We'll have you on again. We'll do Spill the Tea.
Spill the tea.
So with that said, for our wrap-up question, what are some key points that couples should be asking their wedding planners when they are inquiring to make sure that they are working with a professional company to ensure that their wedding day is an absolute perfect event?
Yeah, well, I think your main focus should be venue. Absolutely. The venue is going to, A, set the stage, and B, set the budget. Make sure it makes sense for you. Make sure it makes sense for your guests, especially guests that are traveling out of town. How close is it to a train station or the airport? Are there hotels really, close enough? Are people driving in? Is there going to need to be a parking lot? All those things. The venue really sets the stage of not just that, but also how much of the work that's going to fall onto you. And how much of the work do you want to fall on you? Do you want to look for extra vendors, or do you want it to be all-inclusive? Are you okay with getting a little creative and, in that sense? But, yeah, I would say venue. Venue's top priority. And then also budget, right? So then we're setting the stage for the budget. So budget's super important. Figure out figure out the vendors that are most important to you. You know, is it photo and video? Is it band? Is it flowers?
And I think more so on top of that, too, is just make sure they're reputable. Make sure you have reviews, and make sure, you know, if you are working with a wedding planner, they're able to already decipher, you know, who's been in the industry for a while, who has really good reviews or has a good, you know, who has a good experience to work with. So you really want to lean on your wedding planners for that, and you just really vet your vendors before you book with them, because again, we've seen people even with that cost a lot more, but you book with them and they don't give the product that they have. So reviews is what I'd say. Yeah. So it's really important, and reference is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And if they're on a preferred vendor list, start there. That's a great place to start, because A, you know they've already worked at the venue, and B, they've done a good enough job to where they're on the list. And then lastly, I would say stay authentic. Do you, be you. Make it make sense for you. I mean, we have a couple who is going to walk down the aisle together, you know, and there's not going to be an officiant, and they're just going to stand up there and they're just going to say their vows to each other. They're going to exchange the rings, and they're going to, like, that makes sense for them, and that's great. And, I just love that. Just stay authentic to you. Make up your own rules. It's your wedding day. It doesn't have to. Everyone's like, well, which side do I sit on? And which, like, what's this and what's that? And it's like, sit wherever you want. Like, this is about a family coming together. There's no sides anymore, you know? Like, it doesn't matter where you stand. What side is your best side? You know, that's what I always say. What side do you want to stand on? It's not about what side am I supposed to stand on? What side do you want to stand on? So that's what we always like to say back to our couples. Yeah, it's not about what's right and wrong.
Yeah, I feel like we hear it a lot. Like, what's the right way? It's like, there is no right way or wrong way. It's the way that you want to see it. And that's kind of what, you know, we're here to make sure we project that, what you want in the wedding day.
Yeah, totally.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of Wedding Secrets Unveiled. You helped our listeners become one step closer to their journey of a stress-free wedding planning. We're going to have you guys on again for Spill the Tea episode. I'm going to hold you to that.
Absolutely. We're so in.
But until then, can you tell everybody where they could find you?
Absolutely, yes. You can find us online at our website, theweddingplannersplan.com. And we're also newly to Instagram at The Wedding Planners Plan.
And also, too, for our listeners, I will have Sarah and Cole's information on our episode show notes, which you can find on our blog and also on our website page at sarahzarella.com/podcast. Thank you for listening to Wedding Secrets Unveiled. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you something. I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. We love photographing while having fun, of course. Check out our podcast page on our website for our show notes along with upcoming episodes with your local wedding experts. Listen in as we help you plan your epic event. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. I would so appreciate if you left a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support and let us know what you think. If you know any wedding experts that would like to be a guest, we have a link directly on our website where they can let us know. Thank you for listening.